Welcome to our January 13th edition of Saturday Simulcast. I want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel, of course, home to the Boiler Up Bar, Leaps Coffee, and of course, the 811 Bistro. Don't forget also to vote for the Union Club at the Marion Bonvoy as one of the top hotels of its kind. We appreciate them as a sponsor. Today's special show with Raphael Davis joining us from the Big Ten Network, of course, produced 2015 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And also we'll have Mike Steele and Jerry Nichols from the 1974 NIT team, who will be honored during Saturday's game against Penn State. And Tom Dienhart will join us as well, talk about Purdue's early enrollees and much more in today's Saturday simulcast. So, as they say, enjoy the show. Special guest Ray Davis will join us here in a second. Also, Mike Steele and Jerry Nichols will talk 1974 NIT Championship, part of the great history of Purdue basketball that Ray Davis knows a lot about. And then, of course, Tom Dienhart will talk transfer portal and what's going on in the world of Purdue football. I want to thank our sponsors, the Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929, and of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson. All right, Raphael Davis joins us. He is a busy man, so we're grateful for his time. Big Ten Network analyst extraordinaire, and the work that it's sometimes it's kind of fun for Purdue fans. It's kind of the old Purdue show. Not that you're old, but you and Bruce Weber working together, and then that Hummel guys out there too from time to time. A lot of fun. But I'll start with you just on looking at the Big Ten race, and it's taking form to some extent. Obviously, Illinois gets a big win last night, hangs on for dear life to do so. Wisconsin's a game and a half ahead of your alma mater, Purdue, that most people felt like was the clear-cut favorite. Are we seeing anything to form? Wisconsin, you look at Wisconsin's schedule down the road, boy, they don't have to go to a lot of tough road places, it doesn't seem, if I've done my analysis right. Where do you see it right now? Is Purdue in peril? Purdue just need to hang in there and do what it needs to do. How do you view that?
Oh, I think it's interesting as a fan to put on my fan hat and kind of take off the Big Ten Network. Is each year Purdue wins the Big Ten and doesn't make a run in the tournament. No one cares about winning the Big Ten. Yeah. Every time, every year is who cares about winning the Big Ten? No one cares about winning the Big Ten tournament. Let's make a deep run in March. And I think it's funny when you see kind of the fan base kind of now it matters. Now that we're behind, it matters again. So I think it's one of those things where you look at it, Wisconsin has separated themselves. They've taken care of business. They've caught teams at the right time. I mean, you caught Michigan State early in the middle of their struggles. I mean, you get a couple good wins. I think anytime Wisconsin has an athletic wing, has a big athletic wing. From my days, it was Sam Decker, Nigel Hayes, and those dudes. It just makes them better. I mean, because they don't beat themselves. They don't turn the ball over. They don't gamble on defense. They take care of the glass. And then when they have those athletes like a AJ Storr or like a John Blackwell, it allows them to play up-tempo, get in transition, and then they're able to compete with the athletic teams. And last year, they just didn't have the athleticism. They had the guys to win close games, but not the athletic guys. But I look at Purdue and they got some work to do. They got some catching up to do because Wisconsin, you look at their schedule and they will continue to add some separation. So Purdue has to go out there and win a lot of the road games. Winning in Mackey, I mean, I think that's going to be good for Purdue, but I think it's going to be about winning on the road. Because, I mean, Coach Payne would always say you take care of home and you win half of your road games and you'll be right there to compete to win the league. So I think this year it's going to have to be maybe they win 75% of their road games. And I think the struggles at Nebraska played really well. They threw in a bunch of shots. Like Tominaga threw in some. Wiltshire played great off the bench. It's one of those things where when you beat Purdue, you look at even Northwestern, and your team has to play a perfect game. And like Coach Hoiberg talked about that before the game even started in the media. He said we have to play a perfect game to even be in the game. And then we have to have some things go our way. Well, they played a near perfect game when you look at it. They shoot 51% from the field. They make 14 threes, around 60% from three-point line. And then they competed on the glass. Purdue tries to bully you on the glass. Nebraska was -4 there. But where they made up hay, where things kind of went their way was Purdue turned it over 14 times. and then Nebraska scores 18 points off of those turnovers. So just like the Northwestern game, Purdue turns it over 17, 18 times, and Northwestern takes advantage of that. And then Nebraska, they only turn it over 9 times. And I was talking to Lou Jack about this the other day, is if I was nitpicking with Purdue, it would be that. It would be the turnover percentage defense. It's one of the worst in the country. They don't pressure you on the wings. They don't get into you. I mean, I was in Mackey the other day, and I don't even see the play hard sign about a quarter anymore, where they're counting turnovers. So I think that's why guys like Tominaga or guys like Wilcher or even Sam Hoiberg off the bench, they're comfortable to be able to come in the game and make plays. So I think Purdue has got to kind of pressure more defensively on the wings. And I think offensively, they can't go out and get beat in the paint, even if Zach has an off night. They got to have – that's why you bring in Lance Jones and Cam Heide as a redshirt freshman. Braden Smith has gotten better at it. They got to attack the lane to make plays for themselves at the basket, not just depend on post-ups.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And it is interesting. You, as a former defensive player of the year, though, that still is just watching that game and what Tominaga did and Hoiberg did shooting threes that were borderline out of your mind, but Tominaga does that. We've seen that. So, I mean, what do you, as a defender, if you're Lance Jones or Braden Smith or whoever's out on the wing trying to make the play, how do you deal with it almost mentally when that's going down? Because it was going down on a game or a shot by shot basis in that game.
You got to follow your principles. Like some of them, like Tominaga threw one in, but I can remember specifically Lance Jones went under a screen.
Yeah,
you went removed, and I've been in Paint's defensive system. I know sports. There's no way on earth Paint is telling guys to go removed on Tominaga or even CJ Wilcher. You stay tight on those guys. You stay tight to their body. You don't let them get the shot up. So if you do make that mistake defensively, they threw it in, but you made the mistake. So I think a lot of it is scout report stuff, staying tight to shooters, knowing personnel, KYP, know your personnel, but then also just you got to get tired of being a bad defender. And I think that's where I got my career. I got tired of in practice getting picked on in practice. Like I'll be on Coach Owens' team and Coach Gary will be running plays to pick on Ray. So you get picked on in practice, you go play Michigan, John Beilein is picking on you. So you got to get tired. Or even in the game, you see Marcus Domask or Boo Booey, they're pointing at other guards to come set them a ball screen to get them a switch because they know Purdue's guards will switch. And they're wanting certain guards to guard them. And I think you got to get tired of being the guard that gets called out. I mean, I think Purdue's perimeter just got to defend better. Lance Jones cannot guard everybody. And I think if you look at the Penn State game, Kanye Clary and Ace Baldwin, they can both get going. You look at how they beat Michigan. Even the other night, they were on a tear. If against Northwestern, Ace Baldwin just doesn't score in the second half. If Ace Baldwin gets going, if they both get going, they're tough. So Lance Jones can't guard both of them. Brandon Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, they're going to have to move those puppies and keep the ball in front. And then like I was talking in the studio the other night, playing Penn State is similar to playing a non-conference game, kind of in a sense. They have those two small guards. They're quick. They press you the whole game. And I think this is really going to be a test for Purdue's perimeter because you even think about DeMarco Dunn coming in off the bench, what he did against Michigan. They have 3 guys that can really go get their own basket and spread you out. So
no, you're not seeing a walk in the park come Saturday afternoon for Purdue. I mean, it could be a competitive game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, because I mean Penn State. I mean those guards they're not chumps. I mean you got Kanye Clary is one of the most improved players, not just in the Big Ten but in the country. He went from 4 points a game to I think now he's at 19, 20 points a game. And I mean he's to that left hand. He's attacking you, and they go right at you. And Ace Baldwin the other night against Northwestern had 8 steals. Yeah. So I think those 2 guys they come to play every single night. It's going to be a game where Purdue's going to have to dominate. Purdue's going to have to score because the thing is that Penn State, if they can't score, they can't press. So you're going to have to defend them because once they start scoring, they're making shots and they're getting into that press. That's where they get people. I think they force 17 turnovers a game. And that's their MO.
And a problem, and it has been a problem for Purdue in its down moments, certainly this season. All right, a bigger picture question. Lots been talked about the fact that Michigan State is the last Big Ten team to win the national championship. Certainly Purdue is going to be in that conversation, and there may be somebody else in the league. But talk about that and just in terms of that 23 plus year drought and why, in your opinion, that is. I mean, I understand the tournament is what it is, and you gotta execute in every place to get that done. But is there a systemic issue in this league that is causing that, or is that a systemic issue, if there is one, getting better in 2024?
Yeah, I would say one is hard to win a national championship and
Yeah.
win games in March. I mean, dudes are good everywhere. Like it doesn't matter. Like sometimes seeding doesn't matter. Sometimes you need players. And I think when the Big Ten, when I played, you look at the Big Ten and the teams that are going to the Final Fours from when I played, I think Michigan went to the national championship game. Wisconsin went to the Final Four twice. Michigan State went twice, I believe, or once or twice. And then
Yeah.
Ohio State made a run to Elite Eight. So, but you think about all those teams, Michigan has 6 NBA players on that roster. Wisconsin had 4 on their roster, 4 NBA guys, legit NBA guys. Ohio State had a couple with Deshaun Thomas and those dudes. And even Michigan State, they had some NBA guys. So I think when it comes to March, it comes to making deep runs, you need pros. And I think you need pros and you need athletes and you need guards. And I think the Big Ten, for a while, has recruited to win the Big Ten. And I don't think winning the Big Ten, what it takes to win the Big Ten isn't necessarily what it takes to win a national championship, if that makes sense. Because you look at a Penn State, they come in 10th place last season in the Big Ten. They go and they win a game in a tournament, and they're right there to win another one to go to Sweet 16. And they almost missed the tournament. So it's a thing where, and they were, I think, a 10th seed in the tournament. They were upset. Right. So they were guard driven. They had pros. Jalen Pickett's a pro. Steph Lundy's a pro. They had big guards. They're athletic, and they can shoot threes. And I think that formula can get you beat in the Big Ten. You go play at Wisconsin. You go play certain schools that can get you beat. So I think now you look across the league. I think the league is more guard driven. I don't think it's as post up heavy. It's a little faster. You see Nebraska putting up 88 points. You see Iowa putting up 86 points. Purdue has gotten there. You know, Michigan State just put up 90 on Penn State. So I think this year, being more guard-driven, being more wing-driven is definitely going to help come March. Because you look at Ohio State, they're going to take their ups and downs this season just because they're still young. They're young and winning in a sense where none of these guys have won. Even Jamison Battle transferring in, he didn't win at Minnesota. So they're going to have – I see this Ohio State team like I saw my Purdue team the 2014-2015 season where we took our losses, but we still made our way to the tournament. But the difference is with this Ohio State team is they have pros. Like Roddy Gale's a pro, Bruce Store's a pro, Jamison Battle played a long time overseas. So I think, and then on their bench, guys like Scotty Middleton, he's a pro. So as he grows throughout the season, come March, guys that are wired that way are better to play in March. Young guys that are naturally talented that they don't have to really worry about. You know, they have a 2-day prep. You're just kind of going out there and hooping. And I think Ohio State will get some games in March. Purdue will get some games in March because of Braden Smith's growth, because of Lance Jones being able to make plays off the dribble when that shot clock is going down. But I think as the league grows on the wing and as the league grows in the guard position, I think the league will be better suited.
Well said. You know, all right. Indiana's an interesting because Purdue will be playing in Bloomington on Tuesday. Never a walk in the park. I don't care where the Hoosiers are. They were bad against Rutgers, let's be honest. But this is a team that plays differently at home. How do you see, again, Purdue can't look past Penn State, but just the fact that road games, Purdue has to go to Indiana. They have to go to Iowa, Rutgers. They have Wisconsin on the road. They're all games Purdue can win. Down the stretch, they have to obviously go to Illinois too. But it starts, will be an interesting one on Tuesday in Bloomington.
Yeah, Indiana starts with their bigs. So I think when they matched up against teams with other bigs, they struggle sometimes. I think if you look at the Rutgers game, Khalil Ware, he had 13 and 17, which is great. Amazing stat line. I think he was 50% from the field, 5 of 10. Malik Renew, 5 of 10. I think their guards didn't give them anything. I think they were 8 for 27 from the field, only 18 points. And that's between not just their starting guards, all of their guards. And they turned it over, I want to say 18 times. They got out-rebounded by 11. Rutgers got 19 offensive rebounds. So I think Coach Woodson's going to go back to the drawing board. That's not going to happen. So you should expect a tougher team. But I think if it's Indiana's guards have to just play better. Mackenzie Mbako is a freshman. You can't necessarily depend on freshmen in the Big Ten. But Trey Galloway, Xavier Johnson can't get ejected out of games. He just it's just not. It's not funny. It's not cute. It's just not okay for you to be on the road. And you look at their plus minus with Xavier Johnson on the floor. They were +1, and then once he left the game, it was over. So I think he's going to have more focused mindset. I think Woodson's going to have some meetings with him. They're going to talk it out. But I think if Indiana's guards, they don't get anything from their bench. I can see Purdue running away with it. I think Purdue understands the rivalry. They got swept last year. I think you look at I came into Purdue and I hadn't even played at Purdue yet, and I was running suicides for Purdue getting swept the year before with Lewis Jackson and Rocky Como senior year. They got swept that year, and we ran for that the next year. So I think they're going to feel those Indiana losses last year. I think they're going to come out with a focused mindset and take care of business.
All right. This is why you're one of the best at what you do with great analysis, and we appreciate it. I do want to talk one last question on crew life, and that's a passion of yours and your foundation and all the work that you did in Fort Wayne. A lot went on over the Christmas holidays season as well. Tell me what's next. There's always something next in that world, but get me up to date on what's going on with crew life.
Yeah, we just like you just said, Christmas, we fed 30 families, Christmas dinner. We got gifts and toys for 7 other families, which was really cool. That was a lot of fun. And then now we have our cheerleading camp, our youth cheerleading camp. That'll be February 16th at Southside High School. It'll be February 12th through 15th. And then the young ladies, they'll do a halftime performance at the basketball game on the 16th. So that'll be fun. That's always fun. So we're doing that. 40 young ladies you get to attend for free if they cannot afford the $25 fee. But then outside of that, I actually we have the opportunity to raise some funds, and we were able to get selected by the NBA All-Star Committee that we're going to take some young kids to the All-Star weekend, NBA All-Star weekend. That'd be awesome. So we're taking 6-7 boys and a few of our coaches. We're going to go down for Saturday night of All-Star weekend, and we're still raising funds to be able to attend Friday night. So if you want to donate to help us attend Friday night, you go to RaphealDavisBasketball.com. But we're doing that. We were selected as a nonprofit that's able to do that Saturday night, so that's going to be a bunch of fun. A lot of the kids that we're taking a few 3 high schoolers, we're taking 3 middle schoolers, and then 2 elementary kids. So it's going to be a bunch of fun. The kids are going to they're going to have a bunch of fun. And we're going to take them throughout that day. We're going to have meetings with not just with the basketball stuff. I have some things lined up where they're going to be able to meet a retired engineer, a retired pharmacist, different career fields. So that's a bunch of fun. Then we're going to have 2 spring break camps. We're working to have our first spring break camp in East Chicago, Indiana, at the high school where Etwan Moore played, where one of our coaches, Anthony Brown, he was a walk-on Purdue. Yeah. He played there. And then we're going to have our Fort Wayne spring break camp. And then we're also working on our Indianapolis spring break camp. So we normally just have our Fort Wayne camp, but this year we're trying to do, because it's all different weeks. So we're trying to do Fort Wayne. We're trying to do East Chicago. We're trying to do Indianapolis. And then we're actually working on West Lafayette. We just haven't found a gym yet. So that's what's we're in the spring of our stuff. And now we have our Lewis Jackson is going to be leading our AAU program that we're going to start. We have a 7th grade team, and we're trying to put together a 6th grade team. And Lewis Jackson is going to be leading that. And this is it's just been a lot of fun. It's been a whole bunch of fun, and the kids are really enjoying it. We have our spring college trip coming up. That'll be come April, our spring college trip. We're going to go to a university for a weekend. So it's just a bunch of cool stuff to be able to get the kids moving, getting them out of town, and getting them to see different things that they maybe normally not saw.
Yeah, I love the fact that you talk about the need for exposure. And not everybody's going to play in the NBA or play sports professionally, but learn about sports, learn about engineering. And nobody is doing it better than you, Ray, and it's making a difference. You make a difference when we get to watch you on TV. We love that. But this is That's important. This is truly important, and I'm so glad that you're making that happen. And we'll anything we can do to support you, we will do that as well. So Ray, have a great weekend. Enjoy the basketball. I know you do. Any trips to Mackey in terms of coverage in the near term, to your knowledge, at this point? Do you know?
No, I am actually in studio 5 nights a week now. So
yeah,
I'm all
you're not going to do all studio throughout the Big Ten season. Okay, got
yeah, I'm studio. I got 6 days a week. So 6 days a week I'll be in studio. So it's not much time to do much else. I will be the Thursday night games in Mackey. I will be there as a fan though. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, all right. We get that. That's always it's a heck of an environment there. A lot of fun to be part of that too. All right. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back in a little bit here for segment 2, and that will be joined by the NIT guys, and that, of course, Mike Steele and Jerry Nichols. They will be part of a ceremony tomorrow in Mackey Arena at halftime, I believe, as Purdue takes on Penn State. Thanks again, Ray. Welcome back. The room's gotten, I don't know if the room's gotten prettier, but they've gotten two Boilermaker basketball legends with us. Of course, Jerry Nichols, and we're talking 1974 NIT Championship team, which will be honored tomorrow in Mackey Arena. And these guys are going to tear up the town, I think, when they're in town tonight. But Jerry Nichols joins us. And of course, a starting guard, starting swing guy forward on that from Greenwood, Indiana, basketball on that basketball team that won the NIT. Mike Steele from Robinson, Illinois, number 41, and a key reserve, especially down the stretch in the 74 season. Ended up being a starter later in his career as well. Of course, it was also a coach at East Carolina, at DePaul, at Butler as an assistant. Any place else you coached?
That's it.
Did you GA at Purdue also for a little bit? Did you do a year there?
I was a GA at Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. Okay, there you go. So anyway, we are now that we got the introductions in to my favorite people, just to talk some basketball. And if I'd have recorded the 15 minutes we talked before that, we'd really have a good show, because there's a lot of good stuff going on. Jerry, I'm going to start with you. Just to talk, obviously the 74. We all lament, or I guess maybe we were lament, or we're excited we all made it 50 years past that great moment in Purdue basketball history. Of course, the 74 team winning the NIT championship and finishing strong like it did. A great moment for you as a player, but also a difficult one. I mean, obviously you had an injury in the quarterfinals against Hawaii, but now you look back at that at 50 years later, and put it in encapsulate kind of what it means now, and what that experience was like for you.
Well, of course, that's probably one of the most memorable things that that happened during my career at Purdue. 71 through 75. Like I've spoken many times before, we had a team that was just very, very close. Team chemistry was awesome. All of us knew our roles, and we knew what we had to do to win. And we had scorers, we had defenders, we had rebounders, things of that sort. And we had guys not only in the starting 5, but we had the rest of the team that when they got the chance to come in and take over, they did their job too. And that's why we were so successful. But that NIT, like you said, that championship was, like you said, bittersweet for me. I did blow out my knee against Hawaii, and had to watch the rest of the tournament from my hospital bed back in Lafayette. But leading up to that, I was playing some of my best basketball against North Carolina in the first game. I had probably my best game of my career, with 22 points and I think, 8 or 9 rebounds against Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones, yeah.
Yeah, and I defended him, and that was quite a challenge too. But we played very well. We got down the first half, but we came back and we did our thing in the second half, and I think we ended up beating them by 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. So they had some pretty good future NBA players on that team. Not only Bobby, but Daryl Elston and Walter Davis, Mitch Kupchak, and all those guys. So we were playing a big time team, and It's been established that back then the NIT was really as good or better than the NCAA tournament was, because we had more top 10, top 15 teams in our tournament than the NCAA tournament did, due to the fact that, the NCAA automatically invited all of the conference championships, conference teams that won championships. So in lesser conferences. So anyway, I mean, I don't really remember much about when the team came back to the arena, because I was pretty well morphined up. But they came to the hospital and they got me and wheeled me in Mackey Arena during the celebration, and I just broke down, because that was the epitome of one of the best things that ever happened to me, being able to celebrate with my teammates that did such a great job. Man, I was proud of them for hanging in there and basically winning one for the stick man. So
Well, and I think there have been emotional moments in Mackey Arena history. Joe Barry Carroll giving roses to his mom, and I remember in 1980 when I was in school. But that was an unbelievable moment. You had 10,000 people, and you guys were late. Steele, I don't know what you guys were doing on the way, but I remember Bob DeMoss, the former football coach, kind of prompting the crowd. We kept waiting for you guys to show up because I was there.
Probably partying.
Yeah, and then when you came out, was really an emotional moment in the history of the building, because people knew what you meant to that team and the difficulty. And knee injuries were different in 1974 than they are in 2024 by a long shot.
Very much.
And without question. Mike, you obviously were a key role player in that team, but your role, I may be incorrect, but my memory serves, did increase even more after Jerry's injury. But also, you certainly played a role playing with and behind Bruce Parkinson and getting the job done. And you had a very good time. I don't know how good a time you had in New York. You had a good time on the Madison Square Garden court, playing very well for that team yourself. And we talked about Gerald Thomas, who's been battling some health issues, coming in and doing the job. Bruce Rose, obviously, getting the starting job when Jerry's out. Talk about the role players on that team, and you were one of them. But you also had some pretty good talent on the front end of that basketball team too.
No, when Stick got hurt, initially I don't think any of us knew how. We didn't know how bad he was hurt, and like he said, we were close. And when he went, I can remember, guys. The good thing was that Bruce Rose and Stick were both so good, and they tried to play him together, but you had Frank, in there too. And so fortunately we had someone like Bruce Rose that could come in and play 10 more minutes than he was playing. And he couldn't guard like Stick, but he was an enforcer, and he was really a good player. And so we missed Stick, but I think if it would have been harder to replace anybody, but Bruce Rose was playing at a different level too. The two of them together were really, really good. I mean, really good. So, but I think that when I look back on it, I don't think, when we played, like, it wasn't like we went in and said, okay, are we going to be able to compete with Indiana? We just went and played. I mean, when NC State came in, we had them on the ropes. Carolina was a top 5 team, but we just played, and I think that was one of the things too, that we played pickup games in the summer. We just wanted to play, and I think that that's similar when I watch Smith and I watch these guys playing now. I think they're ballers. I think if they were playing DePaul and Division III and weren't getting any money, NAIML money and all that stuff, I think they'd be playing every day because they love playing basketball.
Yeah, that's an important one of the storylines to say. And of course, Jerry, you kind of outlined that only one team from the Big Ten made the NCAA tournament. Of course, it ended up being an Indiana-Michigan playoff, and there's a long story with that. Michigan beats Indiana, goes to the NCAA tournament. Indiana goes to the Commissioner's tournament, and Purdue goes to the NIT. And my point, though, is that one of the storylines that year, I mean, you guys beat an extremely good Providence team out in Hawaii. You beat Michigan at home in an unbelievable comeback, and one of your great moments, another injury moment that people remember. You were getting your nose bloody, Jerry, in that game, but the defensive job you did. But you also had some tough losses. I mean, North Carolina State, which you played 5 days later. You did a great job on David Thompson, still out with fouls and other issues in the last 11 minutes of that, or last part of that game. But you had and they won the national championship, and you had them on the ropes,
Right.
in Mackey Arena. You had Indiana. One of the most bitter losses I can remember was the last game of the year in Bloomington, in a game that very questionable call against Bruce Rose.
Quite a lot of questionable calls done.
Yes, and the Hall of Calls got its name then, but just talk about just how good that team was. I mean, we talked about, just the league was good, but you guys were just a step away from being not only Big Ten champions and being the NCAA tournament, but also beating some extremely good teams.
Yeah. Well, I think, you mentioned we had some extremely close losses, and that was true. And I think some of those losses were basically came down to one or two possessions.
Yeah.
Offensive or defensively, we made some mistakes that we normally wouldn't make, and it put us in a bad position, and it just ended up losing the ball game. We could have very, very well been the league championship if a couple of things, the bounces would have gone our way, a couple, 2 or 3 games during the year. But, those things happen. But we had a very high-powered offense, as you know, Alan. We scored 61 points in the first half against North Carolina State. We had them down 61-46, I believe, down 15 at half. And we just went cold the second half. And they, being the number 1 team in the country, they came back, storming back in the second half. And due to the fact that we couldn't hit a broadside of a barn, they came back and beat us by, I think, 4 or 5. But we were right in the game with them, maybe even played a better game than they did. We just didn't hit our shots. But, all teams go through that kind of stuff. As a witness the other night against Nebraska, the current team, Nebraska was just unreal with their shooting and stuff. And it goes that way. But yeah, like I said the other day, it was a situation where I think at the time that the NCAA was going on, or not the NCAA, but the NIT championship was going on, I think we were playing as well as anybody in the country, with maybe the exception of UCLA. And I would have loved to have a chance to play those guys, but it didn't work out. So could we have been there? Absolutely. But it didn't work out in our favor for that season.
Mike, one of the guys that you, not the guy that you were kind of the presenter for the Purdue Hall of Fame, Bruce Parkinson. And if you haven't, if you haven't had a chance to, you can certainly go back and go to goldenblack.com. We did a Zoom cast with darn near the entire team. Had a great time with that on Monday as part of our Monday Night Memories. But Mike, talk about Bruce and just the kind of player, he's another one of those guys that doesn't always show up statistically, but he was maybe his best year in all. Of course, he had an injury also later in his year. Maybe his best year at Purdue was his sophomore year in that 74 team. But just tell folks just how good he was. And you guys got to go head to head a lot in practice, I know, but talk about how good Bruce was.
Well, the first time I'd been on campus for a couple hours, and my parents dropped me off, and I went right over to the co-rec, and Park was there, and I meet him. That's the first time I'd ever, I met him, and I kind of prided myself on a couple things. I would usually make the teams up, try to make them fair, but usually my guys had a little bit of advantage, and I would keep score, and so that's another advantage. So I would win more games than I'd lose. Well, I cheated Parkinson. He's from Yorktown. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And so
not here to defend himself either, but go ahead.
He's not. It's great. And so he won every game. I mean, I changed the score. I did everything. He won every game. And I went back and I called my dad and I said, Dad, I just played with the best basketball player I've ever seen. And my dad said, well, Mike, at the different level, you're going to see that. I said, Dad, he's the same age. He's a freshman, and he plays the same position I play. And my dad said, oh, damn, that's not good. So if they had the portal then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd have stayed all night.
Yeah.
I don't know. One night at Purdue, I'd have been at Evansville or Indiana State or someplace. And that shows you, though, he hung in there. And even though I think Park made me better because I played against him every day in the summer. We played one-on-one. I'd cheat him, trip him, whatever. But I also knew that if I was in the game and I could get him the ball, things were going to happen that were going to be good. I mean, I think that that's one of the things that I tried to do is when in doubt, get it to Bruce. Yeah. And I think maybe one of the reasons he had such a good year is because when I was in the game, I wasn't looking for me as much as I was looking for Park. Yeah. And we had a nice chemistry together. I think in the NIT, we played a lot together. And
yes.
Game, we had some, I had a good feel for what he was going to do. And yeah, we had a good chemistry, but he was a special player. And, was as good as any point guard that I have seen play. He was really good.
There's Purdue's all-time assist leader, and Bruce Parkinson was a sophomore from Yorktown, Indiana, on that team. And yes, he was one of those guys. Joe Barry Carroll's got the only triple-double in Purdue history, men's basketball history. But who knows the closest second is Bruce Parkinson. And he had, I think, in his freshman year, I think a 12-9-9 or 12-10-9 deal. And of course, we know assists got in there somewhere, but he was special. All right, we get our chance to have some fun with John Garrett and Frank Kendrick, just because really good players, obviously. John Garrett and Jerry, I'll start with him. John Garrett, of course, the center on that team, 6'11" guy from Peru, Indiana, would have been a junior on that team. That's right. And finished, made second team All Big Ten. Frank made first team that year. But really special guy. You guys could, he's a 6'11" guy, Frank. You guys can run a bit. This team was fun to watch, Jerry, because you guys can get up and down the court. But talk about the skill set of both those guys, and then I'll let Mike Steele rebut it, because he will, especially with Frank. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think we both have pretty good same value and views of both of those players. John was a phenomenon because not only was he 6'11", but the guy could run the floor like a guard. And that was one of the reasons why we were such a fast-paced team, is because we could do that with him in the ball game. And the guy could shoot from anywhere on the court, and as good as anybody that we had on the team. His shooting was probably some of the best that I've ever seen in a big man. There's been some good ones, but he was right up there with the rest of them. And he was just a guy that we could get the ball to, and we knew that something good was going to happen, like Mike said a while ago with Park. And so John was a very good guy to have on our team, because we were based on quickness. Frank and I were very quick. We could jump, things like that. John could run the floor, not jump very well, but he could still rebound. And of course, then we had really quick guards and stuff, maybe with the exception of Steele. But and in regards to Frank was probably, Coach Shaw said one time that he thought Frank was very much like Elgin Baylor in the way he was able to score and stuff one-on-one. And I believe that. I used to watch Elgin Baylor play with the Lakers all the time, and Frank had uncanny individual moves as a one-on-one offensive player. Couldn't guard a fence post, but Frank was a great guy to play with, because we would both get out and run and get things moving. So that was a lot of fun. The thing I enjoyed about Frank, and probably we would both say the same thing, is some of the toughest competition that we had in our years at Purdue were mine and his one-on-one games after practice.
Yeah. Because
we were the same size, we were the same quickness, we could both shoot, we could both go to the hole. It was just, knockdown, drag out. one-on-one games after practice. So, but no, Frank was just a terrific player. Had a really good knack of being able to score.
He didn't lack confidence, which comes in handy as a player.
Right.
Guys, and I'm not being critical of him at all. I think that's a thing where Frank had that special quality. You'd said, Mike, and I think on Monday's show, and I've heard you say it before about John Garrett in today's NBA world would be different than he was. He never I may have had a cup of coffee in terms of getting a couple chances, but didn't really get much at all of a chance in the league. He played overseas, though, I think. Is that right?
He did.
Yeah. But anyway, talk about John's skill set. And of course, Frank was in the NBA for a cup of coffee and played a long time overseas. Was part of the Golden State Warriors World Championship team, was at least on that roster for half that season. But talk about those guys in terms of just how your views of how good they were, but also some of their skill sets that made them unique.
Frank had a really good mid-level jump shot. I mean, he and Stick can tell you, like, he could go hard to the basket and pull up and shoot an 8, 10, 12 footer.
Yeah.
He didn't have much range.
Yeah.
Like, if they had a 3-point shot, he'd have shot them. I promise you that. But
yeah, he still does in his alumni games, but go ahead.
No, but he didn't have that part of the game. But John Garrett, if he was playing now, John Garrett could go set those high screens. If you could visualize Edie setting a high screen and then stepping back and shooting threes.
Yeah.
That's what most of John's baskets came outside of 15 feet. And he was a great free throw shooter, but up at the elbow and even further out, we'd have shooting games after practice and stuff. And you're talking about as the next year with Macy and Seasteen and Eugene and guys that, could all really shoot. John Garrett could shoot just as good or better than any of those guys. And, he had, for a guy 6'11", I'm not sure he could dunk, and I know he couldn't palm a ball.
Really small hands.
No, but he could shoot it. Yeah, he could shoot it. And he was fun. He was fun to be with. He was fun in the locker room. I think that's the other thing that made it really neat is that I can't remember any blow-ups, any real issues we had. I think Frank he and Rosie one night, Frank was mad about something and Rosie stopped that pretty quick. But that was it. That was it. And David Luke and all those guys, we just had a really, really close group, and that really made it so much fun. And as the season goes on, I can't remember some of the games we won or lost, whatever, but I can remember we were always together and we were always, always had everybody's back. And that made it special.
Yeah, David Luke, of course, I guess I don't know if you really he really wasn't a point guard. He was kind of your off guard because Bruce really ran the show, but he also was a big part of that starter and it played a big role. Kind of his career crescendoed at the right time because he'd struggled a little bit going into that year and became a very, very important part of that team. From Cincinnati Purcell High School. All right, I do want to ask one more question about the team, and then I want to hit you both on this year's team. But Fred Schaus, the head coach, obviously what would have been in his second season as the head coach in the 73-74 season. But Jerry, I'll start with you. Talk about what Fred Schaus was like as a coach and how he seemed to complement kind of the atmosphere, maybe because you guys were kind of good at getting along by yourselves, but talk about the role that Fred played in your group.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock for me after my freshman year to hear that George King had taken the AD job and that we were going to have a new coach. I didn't have the slightest idea or know much about Coach Schaus when he came in. Knew that he'd been with the Lakers for many years as coach and general manager. But that's all I knew about him. I didn't know what kind of game we were going to be playing or anything. The good part about it is that he brought in the pro style quick ball game that we all like to play. And we had the team for it. And I think he realized that with the quickness and and the mobility that we had, that was the style of play we needed to play. So he was already there with that type of game from the pros. Defensively, I don't know that we got a whole lot better defensively in the years that he was there, but we were able to outscore a lot of teams, and but no, Coach Schatz was a player's coach. I think you could go to him with any problems or issues that you had and discuss things with him, and he would help you work those out. He would listen to you when you came with ideas and stuff like that. But he was a good guy. He was a really good guy. And I think we all, pretty much all had the same feeling about him in that regard. Fiery guy, very fiery guy. So you had to compete and you had to do your job, or you were going to be in a world of hurts, probably at halftime or after practice and stuff like that. But no, I think he was a good coach for us.
Yeah, the Stomper. He was.
Yes, he was.
He was a personality, even though, and like I said, a good one of those. He's a good soul. There was no question about that. But Mike, what you obviously went on and coached. You had people that inspired you in the coaching world, certainly, but talk about what Fred might have had, what, not say inspiration, but things that you may have taken from what he did in your coaching career.
It's funny. We talked about the Iowa game, which we lost in triple overtime, but it's one of the moments. It's one of the games that I remember, and I'll tell you why. Like, I was a pretty good passer. And so like our last second shots, I would be the guy taking the ball out of bounds. So that was, that's what I did. And so we're down in the second overtime and we're down 2, and there's like 2 seconds to go. Mm-hmm. And we got a timeout, and he's put Pat Manahan in, and I was supposed to throw it to Pat, and then Pat was going to throw it to Stick. And that was the play. And so as we're coming off the bench, I turned to Coach and I said, we don't have time for 2 passes. It's not going to work. I'm a sophomore. And I said, it's not going to work. And as we're going onto the floor, the place is going crazy. And Coach said, well, then throw the damn ball wherever you want to throw it. There we go. And so Stick goes off the screen. He goes deep, and I fake it to Manahan, and I throw it the length of the floor, and Stick is wide open. And he catches it and makes it. And I'm telling you, I wish I had a video of me sauntering over to the bench. Everybody's going crazy on Stick, and everybody's so pumped. He makes the shot. And I was just kind of like, well, what do we want to do next?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. I was so cocky. It was so faithful. It would have been perfect if we would have won the game, if we would have won. And when you talk to Sat still thinks he made the shot, and we won the game.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember any of the games except that one. That's it.
You and I know the difference.
Yeah, Dick not here to defend himself, though. We did shout, get him out in the Monday night podcast, but Dick had 17 points, but he did not score the sorry, it was
no.
Yeah, but he did hit 9 out of 10 free throws, so he did do that well.
It was a fluke.
Dick's a good storyteller.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, think about it. You had me from Robinson, Stick from Greenwood, Park from Yorktown, for crying out loud.
Satterfield from Hagerstown.
A couple boys from Peru.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just if they'd had a video of us the first day we were in New York, it would have been like Opie looking up and like, Pa, look at the buildings.
And
that's exactly right.
And as the story goes, you didn't pack because you weren't sure you're going to beat North Carolina for a long time, and then you did. And then, of course, in those days, the whole tournament was played there, so you got to spend 10 days, 11 days there.
At the Essex house, and I mean, Park and I only took one change of clothes because I was going to Myrtle Beach to play golf with the fraternity guys. I knew we weren't going to beat Carolina.
See, that's the thing. You screwed the whole story up because they said, "Oh, they were ready and they were mad and they thought they had a chip on their shoulder. They were going to beat North Carolina." No, you guys weren't. You're going to win. You're going to win. I don't know. There's got to be some truth in there somewhere.
Well, on the other end of that, I knew that we were going to beat them.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There you go, Stick. You know what? I was so excited we were going, and they said we're playing Carolina. I said, well, this will be a short trip.
Jerry, I want to ask you, because both of you guys obviously watching, both of you will be in Mackey Arena tomorrow and be honored and see Purdue take on Penn State at 2:15.
Yep.
But we all watched Tuesday night in Lincoln when the Cornhuskers put on a shooting show. You guys know a lot about basketball and watched a lot of basketball, a lot of Purdue basketball. Not time to hit the panic button by any stretch by Purdue, but 4 out of the top five teams in the AP poll have already been beaten this week. But talk about, I'll start with you, Jerry, put a little bit in perspective on what you see in this team and maybe what they have to do to get better. I mean, you can't be at your best on January the 12th if you're going to win on April the 8th or whatever day it's going to be. So talk about that.
To be honest with you, and I think Mike will agree with me here, this team reminds me a whole lot of our team in regards to the team chemistry they have and how hard we played. And, everybody's still going through, it's only not even quite mid-season yet. And everybody's still going through growing pains with trying to develop their team roles and their combinations of players at certain times during certain games to be successful. When Zach gets in foul trouble like he did on Tuesday night and he has to sit out, a few more minutes than what he normally does, that puts a little bit more strain on the guys coming off the bench and more pressure. And we turned the ball over quite a bit on Tuesday night, which is kind of unusual. When we're at our best when Braden is not dribbling the ball for half the shot clock. We're at our best when we move the ball, very quickly and get our rotations all matched up for Zach to roll to the basket and get posted up inside and then get the ball to him. And then if they double and triple team, then we've got guys that are, good shooters and we shoot a pretty good. As a matter of fact, I think before Tuesday night, I think we were the top rated 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten at about 41%, if I'm right, Malin. So, we can knock them down as Gillis did, there for a while, but unfortunately we didn't have enough players hitting enough of them to weather the storm because our defense broke down on many occasions, which, you go through games like that. But unfortunately, Nebraska was hitting everything they threw up. And Tamanaka was unreal like he always is. Just, it doesn't even look like he can get a shot off over the defender and the kid pulls up and makes the shot. It's hard to defend. And but yeah, I love their composure in most games. Tuesday night was one game this year that I thought maybe we kind of got it in our head that we were beat before the end of the game. Usually we just fight back and take control of the game again. And it just didn't happen. So that happens. But this team's going to be fine. I mean, they've only lost 2 games. Sometimes when you get beat, it makes you work harder. It gets you more composed, gets you more prepared for the next games that you're going to be able to play. And since you have a few losses going into the tournament, that gives you more motivation to do your job and show people that you are the best team in the country. And I think if we're going to win a national championship, I think this is the team that can do it.
Mike, anything to add to that, or what will you add to that?
You know what? Was Kaufman Wren, was he sick?
Not to my knowledge. I just think that they didn't he went for literally zeros across. Now, he had 5 rebounds or something like that, but
yeah,
zeros across the board.
Because he had his man left him. I mean, he's coming off the best game he's had, like that I can remember. And he made a 3, made shots. They left him, and he had 2 or 3 times he caught the ball inside the free throw line and didn't even look to shoot it.
Yeah.
And talking to different coach and some of the players, like he's improved so much. And I just felt like, I don't know what happened to him in that game because he played only 15 minutes and he had some rebounds, but I mean, he didn't get a shot attempt. He didn't get a shot. He didn't get a shot.
Yeah.
I agree with Stick in that what we didn't get any fast break baskets because they didn't miss any shots.
Right.
I mean, they didn't. And I mean, every time when we started that second half and we got right there, I said, well, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm darn if it didn't go to 10 points, but they made shots that you try to make if you're playing horse. And it's like, this is the last level. I'm playing Stick. And okay, Stick, and you got to shoot this shot. When the ball hits your hand, you got 1 second to shoot it because that's how quick that guy. And you know what? You watch, I guarantee you his next game, he'll be 1 for 9 or something. Balls will be going everywhere. But I think that this team, we can't get wrapped up with losing a game because there's nobody left that's undefeated already. Yeah. Right. And this past week, I mean, 4 of the top 5 teams got beat, and some of them got beat at home. And I mean, Marquette gets beat by Butler. Marquette was like 2 for 25 from the 3. Right. Miami gets beat by Louisville, and Louisville is arguably, the worst team in the ACC, and they go in and score 90-some and beat them 15 or 20. So because of the 3-point line and the portal, I think it's just changed the parity. There's a lot of good teams and a lot of good players.
Yeah, that is a true statement, and
I agree.
I think that that's what's going to make it interesting down the stretch. And well, we will look forward to both of you guys and your teammates, and what will be a special presentation in Mackey Arena on Saturday. I think they're going to do something at halftime, I presume, and when you guys will be honored. And I think Matt Painter did you guys some justice, because that's one thing I love about Matt Painter is his ability to understand history and understand perspective of, like you guys have talked about, 1974 NIT championship is not the same as the 2023 NIT championship. It was a big deal, and 10,000 fans greeted you guys when you came home, and it's worthy of a banner in Mackey Arena. I think that's what's really cool, is that is there, and you'll get your just desserts. And fans like myself, when I'm a little younger than you guys, you were
I lost you. Hello,
I'm a little younger, but you guys were absolutely fun to watch. And I didn't know all the stuff. I didn't know all the stuff you guys did off the court, because I was too young and naive. But I did appreciate.
That's good.
Appreciate you guys being as good as you were. So
appreciate it.
Safe travels to West Lafayette. Jerry doesn't have quite as far to go as Mike does, but you guys will get here, and you'll be greeted with some really wonderfully cool temperatures, which makes Lafayette the place to be in the wintertime. We all know that. So we'll be back in a couple minutes, though, for our next segment. Do you want a last word? Go ahead, Mike.
No. Is Gerald Thomas, because as you mentioned, he's gone through some incredibly tough health situations. Is he going to be able to go to the game? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think he's working on that as best he can. I'm not certain that'll be the case. Of course, Gerald lives in West Lafayette, less than half a mile from Mackey Arena to be exact. Of course, the longtime West Lafayette City Councilman as well has gone through some health issues and had some recent surgery. But I've always appreciated the fact that even on our Monday night podcast, you guys did a lot to honor what a great guy Gerald is, first and foremost. And as a true freshman, came in and really helped make a couple big free throws, I think, in the Utah game, and a game in Jacksonville too. Then in the semifinals, it was dicey for at half. You guys were tied at the half in that game, and he came in and did the job. So
I missed a free throw. I missed a big free throw in the championship game, and Gerald stepped in and tipped it back.
That's right.
And I ended up getting it and didn't have anything to do with it, so I threw it up there and it went in. So I mean, it was
Gerald gets an assist for that.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. No, he was one of the best teammates you could have. Just a good heart and a good guy.
Great soul, great soul. All right, we'll be back in a couple of minutes for our next segment on Golden Black Live, and stay tuned, as they say. And we appreciate all of you, and Mike and Jerry so much for your time. Always fun talking to you guys.
Thanks, Alan.
This weekend, Stick. We'll see you this weekend, brother.
Yeah, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
Tom Dienhart joins us for segment 3, and yes, it's quiet, I guess. The NCAA champion has been determined with Michigan. The transfer portal is closed, though Purdue is still picked up somebody, I think was this week as well. But Tom, it still is, and we're still working our way through conditioning. I will start again, and then, of course, spring ball. But kind of give me your assessment, Purdue in the transfer portal, a pretty highly, at least, respected group in terms of what needs have been secured, but give us your synopsis of that group and kind of what to take from that from your perspective.
Yeah, first, Alan, crazy to think about this, but classes have started in West Lafayette.
Yeah.
Purdue's enrolled 14 players from the portal. They've also enrolled 13 high school and junior college players, 11 high school kids and 2 JCs. So that's 27 new players who are on campus who will take part in spring football. So the staff's got a lot to sort through. A lot of times, Alan, these freshmen we know probably aren't going to play much, if at all, this coming fall. But still, 14 transfer guys, 11 high school kids, 2 junior college players, all are walking around campus, Alan, carrying their book pack, to the union, eating at the sweet shop, walking by the old fountain and taking classes. But again, just a lot of new faces here for the staff to sort through. We see this roster continue to change, to continue to evolve. People who rank portal classes seem to think Purdue's got a pretty good collection of players here, Alan. And they seemingly checked a lot of boxes. And no box was checked more thoroughly than that offensive line box.
Right.
We all knew they had to do some work there. And boy, did they do some work, Alan, bringing in some, it looks to be some quality offensive linemen from the portal. 4 guys, 4 portal offensive linemen are here on campus. So that's a unit. And plus, Alan, they got 2 junior college offensive linemen. So that's, again, 4 portal linemen, 2 junior college offensive linemen, and they got 4 high school kids. So that offensive line should be in a little better shape, at least from a depth standpoint. So it's going to be fun watching those guys sort of get acclimated to Purdue and see what the staff thinks of them once spring ball starts in March.
Yeah, when you talk about the amazing number, over 30% of your roster is new coming in. We talked about this before, but Ryan Walters and all coaches have got to learn to manage to some extent a little bit of chaos as you have a new roster, or at least assimilate guys, try to make a team out of all this and do it. The good thing, I guess, Tom, is that you got 27 of them that will be able to go through spring practice. That's a huge deal of being able to get these guys lined up and at least introduced to what Ryan Walters football looks like from their perspective.
Yeah, you're right. And I talked about the offensive line being maybe the position that it's been impacted most by portal transfers. Another key area, though, is the wide receiving core, Alan. And, it was last Friday, I think, during the Illinois game, the 2 receivers from Georgia committed to Purdue. And so that gives Purdue 3 portal wide receivers. Again, the 2 Georgia kids, Denylon Morissette and C.J. Smith. And earlier, they got a commitment from a UCLA wide receiver, Cam Brown. So we all know Purdue lost, I think it's 6 receivers in the portal this last year, Alan. So they really had to replenish that position and give those guys a chance to get comfortable in this offense and also get comfortable working with Hudson Card.
Yeah. The portal will open up again. I don't even know the date off the top of my head, but after spring ball. Do you see much? I know Purdue picked up some guys last year. I don't know if they did in the second portal. They did some. Do you see much there? Will there be much? Where it's also it's relatively new, but do you see much activity there? Purdue does not appear in your count to have a lot of scholarships to play with at this point. What do you see though? Maybe in the spring as well.
I think for sure there's going to be movement out and movement back in, Alan. And yes, they did add some players last spring during that portal window. It's this year, it's April 15th to the 30th.
Okay.
So again, Purdue's probably going to start spring football when it gets back from spring break about March 17th, 18th, right around there. And it's about a 3 or 4 week process. So the end of spring football for Purdue will line up perfectly with when the portal opens back up. At that point, players will have had a chance to go through spring practice. Maybe some guys will see the handwriting on the wall, maybe not like how they think they're going to be used, and may want to jump in the portal at that point. And it wouldn't be a shock to see a few guys do that. And of course, Alan, Purdue's always looking for players. Even if they don't have a need at a position, if they find a good player that they can get, they're going to take them. There don't seem to be any real glaring areas of need from a positional standpoint right now. They did add a cornerback here last week, the kid from Colorado. So they got 2 cornerbacks now as well. So again, no real serious areas of concern at this point for Purdue. But like I said, they're always shopping, Alan. They're always looking to try to add talent to that roster.
Yeah, we were talking at our high level staff meeting yesterday at lunch about spring game date, and now it comes to if they do start around the 18th of March, I got to think that spring game will be on April the 13th, which will be right after Purdue men's basketball's NCAA championship celebration. Maybe they'll put them both in the same day. I'm being somewhat facetious, but I suppose for Purdue fans, you only can hope that can happen. But all right, so you look at schedule next year. You watched this week Michigan win the national championship. And now we're going to be going to a 12-team playoff, and not necessarily we're expecting that to impact Purdue just yet. Certainly that would be a dream of Purdue to get to work its way somehow into the playoff discussion down the road. Tough schedule. It's going to be tough every year if you're Purdue, but you've got Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon State, Notre Dame, just to name 5 on that schedule. But it's a new era now, and it's going to be you're going to be everybody fighting for those positions. You might see 2 or 3 teams in the Big Ten get into that playoff. Certainly, that many will be in the conversation throughout the course of the year. But just you've watched a lot of college football over the year. Just how do you think that changes the dynamic, even for teams like Purdue that are going to have to scratch and claw to even get in that conversation, and realistically not going to be in that conversation very often, but they that's something they can aspire to. Talk about that 12 team and how that changes the landscape of how teams do business.
Yeah, it'll be tough, Alan. I think the Big Ten and the SEC probably hope they make up over half that playoff field every year. Maybe with one of them getting 4, the other one getting 3, and flip-flopping every other year. But they certainly want no fewer than 2 and at least probably 3 in every year, and sometimes maybe 4, Alan. And the hill's gotten a lot steeper for schools like Purdue to try to reach that brass ring of reaching the playoffs. Now, yes, there are more playoff slots. Like you said, it's going to be a 12-team playoff starting this coming season. But the Big Ten has just gotten a whole lot more difficult, right? As an 18-team conference now, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, USC. But, Alan, we've been around a long time, and we've seen Purdue when they get everything aligned, they have a good quarterback, and things are clicking. They can't have those special seasons. And there's no reason to think why Purdue maybe couldn't rise up from time to time and make a push at one of those at-large playoff spots. Winning the Big Ten, Alan, that could be a real tall task, but you never know. But again, maybe at least getting one of those at-large spots, that may be where Purdue has to really aim for from time to time if it hopes to really get in that college football gala event. It's going to be really fun, Alan, especially those first rounds next year that are going to be played on campuses.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast seeing a playoff atmosphere and on some of these campuses on Fridays and Saturday nights here coming up this coming year.
Yeah. The 2000 and 2003 teams would have been right at it. I think if you talk about Drew Brees and, of course, Kyle Orton's team, though they had 3 regular season losses, but as did the 2000 team, I should say. But still, there is living proof that it can happen and that you can be in the conversation if you're Purdue. But boy, I still shudder a little bit at the fact that Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA are in this league. Going to make things challenging, but I think Ryan Walters seems to embrace all this and say, you know what, we're here to compete, and it all will start on September the 7th when Indiana State comes calling.
And they won't shy away out. We know this is an aggressive staff, and
yes, I agree with that.
Then this weekend, as a matter of fact, they're already starting to woo more intensely 2025 players. Alan, there's posted boiling over on Thursday. Got some names of some key 2025 kids that will be here this weekend. So the ball is already moving forward, obviously, toward these next round of recruits. And yeah, you mentioned that schedule too. They're trying to move that schedule around a little bit. We've talked about that. A lot of people have asked me about it. Purdue's got to bye August 31st, which is week 1. They don't want to bye the first week of the year. They'd like to get Indiana State, that game moved from September 7th to August 31st. It looks like it's going to be a very tall task. And right now, if I were to make a guess, it's probably not going to happen. But I know they've worked hard. They're continuing to work hard. So we'll see if that happens. But right now, Alan, they've got to bye that first week of the year. And that's something the Boilermakers would like to change and have Indiana State play in West Lafayette on that week 1, August 31st.
All right. Always time to talk football at goldenblack.com, and Tom Dienhart. Nobody does it better than Tom. We appreciate all his work, and his life's work in college football has been in college sports, not just with Gold and Black, but we appreciate that as well. All right. We want to thank our sponsors, and as we bring this show to an end, and that, of course, is Triple X and On the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Tom and I will get over there for Wayne Purvis before long and say hi to Carrie and Greg Ayersman. We appreciate them. And, of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson at TrentIsMyAgent.com. He, I think, was at the scorer's table on Wednesday night watching Caitlin Clark running up and down the court.
I saw him.
To a very dismal triple-double. I don't know. She was just kind of pedestrian, wasn't she? But what an atmosphere. And you were there for that game as well for half of that ball game. And the fact that you had a sellout in Mackey Arena, no small deal, but a big deal. So thanks again to Tom Dienhart and, of course, Mike Steele and Jerry Nichols and Ray Davis for joining us on today's Saturday Simulcast. We will be back in all likelihood either next week Saturday or the following Saturday, and with another edition of Saturday Simulcast. Thanks again to the Union Club Hotel for its sponsorship and all that they do for us, and for all of you. Travel safe if you're traveling during these wintry conditions, and yet we appreciate the way that you view, digest, enjoy goldenblack.com material. And a reminder that you can subscribe to us at goldenblack.com. We have a website that actually has stories that you might enjoy reading, and a community at Knucklehead Central that was a great thing to be a part of. Special opportunities there available with and offers with on3.com. But again, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great week, everybody.